Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about cellular respiration. Have you seen this molecule before? Pause the video and think about that. Okay, I'm sure that you know this part. You see the phosphate groups, yeah? How many phosphate groups can you see over here? 1, 2, and 3. What about this one? Do you remember this one? Yeah, that's ribose sugar. Do you still remember the difference between the ribose sugar if there is a OH here or if there is an H? You remember that part? Yeah. So if there is the H, which means that the oxygen already deoxidation or oxygen already removed, it is called deoxyribose. Yeah, so that was the ribose for DNA, if you remember. Anyway, so this is the sugar as ribose, and this sugar is not the sugar inside the DNA. It is not deoxyribose, it is ribose. Yeah. What about this part? How about this one? This is the base, and if you remember that base in nucleotide, we had 4 different types of base, like adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Do you remember what? No, you don't need to remember. Sorry, yeah, because it wasn't required for you to memorize the structure of the 4 different bases, but at least you needed to know which one has 2 cycle and which one has 1. But anyway, doesn't matter over here. The thing is, this is adenosine. This is adenosine, and since it has the 3-phosphate group, it is called adenosine triphosphate. Do you remember this one? Does that make sense? What reminds you this magical 3 words? ATP. Yes, so this is the currency of the energy, and we are using ATP as a source of energy. And do you know where the energy is stored inside ATP? Yes, the energy is stored in the phosphate bonds. In the phosphate bonds, they are storing energy. What does that mean? This means that if one ATP with 3 phosphate bond loses 1 phosphate group, it becomes ADP. This means that it loses 1 phosphate group. 1 phosphate group will be removed, and there is one more step. If ADP is losing another phosphate group, then that will become what? Can you tell me? That is adenosine triphosphate. This is adenosine diphosphate, which is 2, and the third one, yes, adenosine monophosphate. So if this phosphate is gone, one would be ATP to ADP. And if this phosphate is gone, then that will be ADP to AMP. So in AMP, we have adenosine monophosphate. We don't mention sugar in this name. I mean, when we talk about the abbreviation and the name, there's no sugar inside the name. That's all. So the essential idea is that the cellular respiration supplies energy for the functions of life. And the energy in the cell is all about the molecule, which we call the adenosine triphosphate. Understandings, applications, and skills. What are you expect? What are the expectations from you to know on this unit? Cellular or cell respiration is a controlled release of energy from organic compounds to produce ATP. There is one thing very important over here, and that the details of the metabolic pathways of the cellular respiration are not necessary, but the substrates and final waste products should be known. So you should know what is going on, what happens at the end, what is the product as a final product. But you don't need to know the specific names during the respiration. But this is just for SL, okay? For HL is different. For HL students, we will have the Unit 8, and Unit 8 is another AHL unit. So don't be so happy here right now if it is said that you don't need to learn. HL students, you should learn these substrate and everything in details in the cellular respiration in Unit 8, okay? But SL, no need. ATP from cell respiration is immediately available as a source of energy. That's what we know. Anaerobic cellular respiration. What does that mean? Aerobic means with the presence of the oxygen, and anaerobic means without the presence of the oxygen. In that case, what would be the yield? What would be the product if there is anaerobic respiration? In aerobic cellular respiration, which is required the oxygen, and it gives the large amount of ATP. That's the difference between the aerobic and anaerobic in terms of the yield of the ATP. So if it is anaerobic, then we have the small ATP. Technically it is 2 actually in the stages. And if it is not, and if it is aerobic, then we have large number of ATP, which is at the end will become like 38 ATP from one glucose molecule. Use of anaerobic cellular respiration in yeast. Maybe we think that, oh, anaerobic, what is the advantage and what is the purpose and why is it important? It is very important, even if when it is not enough oxygen. There are so many other processes and stages will happen. First of all, if it is not oxygen, it happens into your muscles. So without oxygen, your muscles start to produce lactate, not ethanol. Don't be so happy. You don't produce ethanol in your muscle. You produce lactic acid. But in yeast is different. Yeast are producing ethanol when there is not enough oxygen. So there are 2 different ways when there is no oxygen. In yeasts, they are producing ethanol, but in muscle, then there will be lactic acid. This is the 2-way in case of anaerobic respiration. Yeah, you can see my explanation over here. Lactate production in humans when anaerobic respiration is used to maximize the power of muscle contraction. And the final part is analysis of results of experiment involving the measurement of the respiration using germinating seeds by the usage of the respirometer. We will show and we will talk about the respirometer, which is a tool or something that you can measure as the amount of the oxygen produced or oxygen used during the respiration. So what is the cellular respiration? This is so obvious and a simple way of showing that the controlled release of energy from organic compounds Yes. What are those organic compounds? Organic compounds might be carbohydrates. Organic compounds might be lipids or fatty acids with this structure, and you see that the N means we have N number of the carbon over here, so this chain could be very long. And then proteins, and this is also another organic compound. And do you remember what is this? Yes, that's the peptide bond, and this is one amino acid, and the other amino acid. So there are two amino acids, which is a dipeptide. Glucose as an organic molecule, the formula is C6H12O6. With the presence of the oxygen, but the formula is with the usage of 6 oxygen molecules. It will produce 6 carbon dioxide plus 6 water molecules. That's the formula in relation or in regarding to the cellular respiration. And what happens at this stage once the glucose is using oxygen in the presence of the for the cellular respiration with the use of which mitochondria is doing that. What will happen is that the ADP will use the phosphate group to store the energy between the phosphate groups and makes ADP to ATP. In that case, the energy would be here if this is the energy cool. That would be something like as a star showing the energy. Okay, don't get surprised. I didn't do it very well. Yeah, that's the energy. The controlled release of energy, again the same thing, and that's the adenosine. I explained already. When we say adenosine, means that adenine as a base, and this zine is a sugar, but really doesn't matter. It's not zine actually. Anyway, we call adenine plus sugar and plus 3-phosphate as adenosine triphosphate or ATP. So, what are these ATP used for? ATP is used for energetic processes. What kind of energetic processes? You see, I just click once and you will see everything is showing up. I like that. I love this. So, ATP is used for muscle contraction, active transport, protein synthesis, vesicle transport, replication, and cell signaling. So many things ATP can be used. Yeah. So all processes release energy, and hence all energy eventually ends up at heat. The heat energy initially can be used to raise the temperature of the organism. Once you are using energy, once you are producing energy from the organic compounds, definitely you will produce heat as a form of energy as well. Eventually, this heat is lost to the environment and cannot be used for metabolic processes. That's something that's happening once you do the respiration and you feel warm, you sweat, because the energy should be controlled in your body, and the way that your body is controlling the heat because of the energy usage, and that heat will be converted to water molecules. No, not converted. It will be stored to the water molecules in order to get evaporated, and some kind of controlling the heat. The controlled release of energy by enzyme, which is metabolic pathways and cycles, and the other one is how can cell control the rate of enzyme catalyzed pathway and cycles by the end product inhibition. This is something that you have to go back to your 2.5 for end product inhibition. And then in the future we will talk about that 8.1 metabolism for the HM. If you want to know more about this topic, then we will discuss that. Okay, that's a quick review because we already talked about the mitochondria, and as you can see, this is the unit 2.8, as that's a review. Cellular respiration requires oxygen and gives yield of ATP from the glucose. And this is a summary from what happens in the cellular respiration. Glucose with the presence here at the first stage, glucose will convert to pyruvate. At this stage, oxygen is not required, so that's why the maximum production of ATP at the first stage is like 2 ATP at this stage, which is actually anaerobic. So this is anaerobic. And it produces 2 ATP. And once the pyruvate will produce, then with the presence of the oxygen, as you can see here, and then at this stage is aerobic because the oxygen is used, and then it happens inside the mitochondria, and the final production would be like 36 ATP at this stage. You have to go back to unit 2 if you don't remember this stuff. And then the product of the respiration would be carbon dioxide, and that's why the carbon dioxide would go back to your blood, just the blood. Oxygen has been used and carbon dioxide has been produced, and the water molecules. Question: what type of cell would have a lot of mitochondria? Pause the video and answer this question.